typing. And I'm going to put in the links to different files that you should have already gotten on your Evite. And let me just make sure that's all up there. That's the place type menu, the circulation alternatives, and the online survey.
Great. All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. And before we start, I'd just like to briefly introduce ourselves. My name is Carrie Stone, and I work for PlaceWorks. We're the city's prime general plan consultant. You all should know Joanna Jansen. She's also with PlaceWorks and the principal in charge for the project. And we also have Matthew here. He's a new engineer with the city. And Matthew will be taking the notes and capturing all your comments and questions today. During this session, I'm going to walk you through 3 draft circulation alternatives. The circulation alternatives explore different ways people can travel throughout San Mateo. And while they provide the big picture strategy, there are other city documents that will get into the details about how to implement these ideas. These documents include the recently completed bike master plan, the downtown parking plan, the neighborhood traffic management program, and a future complete streets plan. All the draft circulation alternatives are consistent with these documents, but they present some new ideas for the community to consider too. So just a reminder that our focus this morning is on 2 primary questions. Is this the right range of alternative scenarios to consider? And are there ideas missing that you'd like to see evaluated? So Joanna, you can go ahead and share your screen. All right, so you should see alternative A on your screen. This alternative is called prioritizing a walkable city. And it focuses on creating a walkable community in San Mateo by connecting neighborhoods through pedestrian routes. And those routes would connect to transit, schools, and other amenities. Pedestrian improvements could include enhanced lighting, adding missing sidewalks, as shown by the darker blue lines that Joanna's pointing out now. Improving pedestrian crossings to make them safer, as shown by the blue circles Joanna's highlighting. Widening sidewalks, traffic calming, so things like improving speed limit compliance or adding bike lanes or adding street trees. And these details, as I mentioned earlier, would be worked out in the city's implementing documents. The green line along El Camino Real that Joanna's highlighting right now represents bike and public realm improvements. And public realm improvements are things like adding street furniture, improving the lighting, adding landscaping, street trees, parklets, etc. The solid purple line that you see represents existing bikeways of all types. And this could be anything from a bike boulevard signage, arrows painted on the street, or a green painted bike lane. The dotted purple lines represent proposed bikeways as identified in the bike master plan. The solid red lines, which may look like dark orange on your screen, depending on how you interpret colors, show existing shared bike and pedestrian paths, and the dotted red lines show proposed bike and ped paths. This alternative also envisions a 2-block pedestrian-only street in the downtown on B Street between 1st Avenue and 3rd Avenue, which is shown by the blue line that Joanna is highlighting. So we'll move on to alternative B next. All right. So the goal of alternative B is to enhance access to transit in San Mateo, focusing on connections to the city's 3 Caltrain stations and the high frequency bus service along El Camino Real. It envisions adding new shuttle connections between Caltrain and El Camino Real to study areas 3, 6, and 10 to improve the city's east-west connections. And as Joanna is pointing out, these yellow lines, they may look gold or orangey on your screen. This alternative also explores potential bus rapid transit improvements along El Camino Real. These improvements could include things like a bus-only lane, signal preemption, enhanced bus stops, more frequent buses, lower bus floors to improve accessibility, and other improvements to enhance bus service. And you'll see those same purple and red lines are on this map too.
I don't see the map anymore. I'm not sure if everyone else does. I have to stop sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. Where is Joanna?
I don't know.
I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Hold on just a second, let me hit the button.
Sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for letting me know.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that's alternative. Here we are.
I just
Let me just zoom out. Okay.
Hey guys, sorry about that.
Okay.
The facilitator accidentally hit a button that moved me out of this room, but we had a mistake and I don't think it'll happen again. Sorry about that.
Welcome back, Joanna.
Thanks.
But I was just saying that the purple and red lines on these maps are the same as the map lines you saw on alternative A.
What's the difference between the green dots and the purple dots?
Oh, the green dots are from the 2012 proposed pedestrian priority network. So that was a different plan. And did you say the green and the purple? Is that what the question is?
Yes.
Yeah, and the purple are from the bike master plan.
So why did you keep the green dots in there?
It's another data point. I think it's something we could consider as the city is preparing this complete streets plan. I think they're going to merge all these plans together.
The green dots are from the pedestrian master plan.
Yeah.
Can we put the questions in the chat button and then I can ask that just to make sure we get through all the materials, please?
Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, so I'm almost done. Oh, go ahead, Joanna.
Whatever you want. Do you want me to share my screen or do you want to drive?
You can share your screen. I'll stop.
Okay.
I'll just stop sharing. So anyway, I just have one more alternative. Right? Yeah, we're on C. One more alternative to describe, and then we can get into the comments and questions. So alternative C is called Supporting Walking Regional Connections and Emerging Mobility Solutions. It combines the bike, pedestrian, and local transit connections shown in alternatives A and B, and explores some additional inventive urban design concepts, such as implementing a super block concept in San Mateo's downtown. This idea originally comes from Barcelona, and the primary idea is that through traffic that passes through downtown would have to travel around the perimeter of downtown instead. Cars visiting downtown would be allowed on limited interior roadways, which would create more pedestrian and civic space in the other areas. This alternative also envisions adding an automated micromobility circulator, such as an autonomous vehicle shuttle between Caltrain and El Camino Real, high frequency bus service, connecting studies areas 3, 6, and 10 to these areas to improve the city's east-west connections. And these are shown by those yellow lines that Joanna's pointing out. It may look like gold or an orangey color again on your screen. The green line represents bike, public realm, and bus rapid transit improvements along El Camino Real. And the blue circles identify proposed pedestrian crossing and safety improvements. So now we're ready to jump into our conversation. Just a reminder again that we're asking, is this the right range of alternative scenarios to consider? And are there ideas missing that you'd like to see evaluated?
If you can raise your hand, that would help. I haven't seen anybody raise hands.
How do you raise hands?
I see Sarah Fields. If you go into your reactions, I believe you can raise your hand there. I see Sarah Fields. Can you unmute yourself here?
Hi. So I would add that within any of these three, a considerable layer around public safety is necessary. I just want to say personally, I witnessed 2 pedestrians last week in downtown struck by a vehicle. Obviously it was terrifying, but I'm happy that downtown is really activated right now, that there are people of all ages, individuals, families who are walking, and they're walking in their neighborhoods. I live in 19th Avenue Park, but that there's a high level of pedestrians in and around the downtown area. And it seems like downtown is a sort of focal point in all 3 of these alternatives. And so just making sure that safety of everyone is really a high level of consideration. Thank you.
Thanks for that comment.
I see Wallace next.
Yeah, I just wanted to give my initial reaction that it seems to me that alternative C has kind of got it all. Right now, I would have to kind of be convinced, why would you leave A or B out? Why wouldn't you combine them? I recognize they might be modified to some degree, but it seems to me that the more comprehensive is better.
Thanks, Walsh. Yeah, that's a comment we heard on Thursday night too. Similar reactions.
I see George Derby next. If you can unmute yourself, George.
Yes, I found how to do that. I just wanted to follow up with Sarah's comment on public safety. I've had personal experience. I've avoided getting creamed by a vehicle, even though I've seen people blow through stop signs on Claremont at full speed. So I'm a big fan of red light cameras pretty much everywhere. But nonetheless, the sidewalks have actually been contentious. There are folks that bicycle them at full speed on Delaware and occasionally downtown, and especially downtown, the sidewalks are quite small. I know that might change with some of the planning that's happening here, but I was wondering if the bike lane planning that is in this design, is that for separate bike lanes or just kind of markings?
It represents a range of different bike improvements. But the bike master plan does specify exactly what type of improvements those are. So you'd have to look at that document to see what is exactly being proposed.
Okay.
And while we were waiting for another question, I do want to mention that the city has a Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission, and I'm hearing your concerns about safety. So those are good meetings to attend to express those concerns, because they're really working through the day-to-day issues that the city's facing right now through transportation and safety issues. But of course, we'll also forward these comments to that team.
And to facilitator, we're about halfway through our session.
Great, thanks for that.
I see George Derby raised his hand again. Do you have another question?
Yes, well, actually, it's more of a commentary on some of the planning for the center of town. You have that super block that you're creating that along the lines of, you said, is Barcelona, Spain, I imagine. There was a survey that was done recently regarding closing off the space, those streets downtown. And in the commentary, there was talk of a town square concept. The idea that it wouldn't just be, it would be more like something like a pedestrian mall with a center of town kind of feel to it. People mentioned that the European cities did this, a number of European cities have done this quite well. And there was one comment I remember in there that I thought might make a lot of sense, though it might be difficult to implement, but I think it might make sense, was that super block would be extended on 3rd Avenue all the way up to El Camino, so that you would have a pedestrian thoroughfare that started all the way from El Camino and basically pulling in the west side of town and wrapped around into the super block, or hopefully, in my opinion, also town square concept down in the center of town. I would also add, this is my notion, that it would be nice if it were possible to include a green space concept along with a super block concept, where you might be able to create a green space. It could be a pedestrian type mall with a lot of plants or trees that wound from Central Park through the super block area and maybe over to the area around Caltrain Station, to that neighborhood that's kind of the San Mateo Creek neighborhood. It's a little bit distinct because it tends to be greener because of the creek flowing through there. And that way you end up with really a walkable area that bisects, that goes right through the center of town from each end, from Central Park. It could also potentially, and this probably extends beyond the 2040 plan, but it would have to consider it if it were to be done right into the future. I imagine the Caltrain tracks at some point will disappear. Either it will be tunneled because tunneling, thanks to, you know, people we all know, has become cheaper and more efficient, or it's trenched, which the Europeans have pretty much done in all their cities. You know, they just dig a big trench, put the tracks down there, and then above that you end up with some choices, including green space, or a mixture of green space and office space, or whatever you like. You know, maybe you'll want to put a new city hall there if you want to move back downtown. So that's something that's kind of a big idea, but maybe it should be considered, because getting out to 2040 might be the beginnings of thinking about what to do with those Caltrain tracks. And then a final idea linked to that, if you've been to San Antonio, they have their Riverwalk. We have a stream, San Mateo stream, that goes through town. And in some places, I don't know if it might be possible to uncover it and create a little pedestrian, a little public space area alongside the stream, maybe down towards the old B Street area that's being redeveloped now, with the old Trags Market being replaced. I know the stream is underground there, but possibly it can come up in some areas, maybe along Baldwin. I'm not sure where it flows. But that might be nice. You might have a half block of open public space with a stream flowing through it. Now that would really change the character of downtown, especially if it linked into an overall green space, super block town square concept. So that's kind of my big personal idea vision for the area, for the downtown area in terms of public space. I'll just add one little thing. As the buildings become more dense downtown, perhaps you might consider getting rid of street lights. In European cities, they don't have street poles. They hang the lights from the buildings. So you open up the sidewalks and the roadway even more. You don't have poles in the middle of sidewalks. It actually works quite well, and tried and true concept. Walk around Vienna, I don't think you'll find a street pole. So that's just a little thing.
Thank you.
Thanks. I just want to say that those are the kind of comments we're looking for, just new ideas that we don't have in these alternatives. So thank you.
And I have a question from Lisa Van Ford. I'm not sure I pronounced her last name correctly. Can you please go into more detail about how El Camino will be impacted under each alternative? I'd like to see El Camino to be more pedestrian and bike friendly, like a walkable area similar to Las Ramblas in Barcelona.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't have exact answers for you right now because we are so high level. But it could be, just a variety of different improvements that are added here. But those details would be worked out later. And Joanna, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Well, I think just to go back over some of the stuff you already mentioned, Carrie, the differences among El Camino in the alternatives are that in alternative A, it's more focused, consistent with the theme of this alternative, on pedestrian improvement. So that would really be the focus of changes to El Camino, would be about making El Camino safer and more pleasant for pedestrians. And that's what this green line means in alternative A. And then in alternative B, you have the gold or yellow or orange line along El Camino. The theme of B is about transit.
What did I change right now?
Carrie mentioned bus rapid transit, and that might mean dedicated bus lanes, that the lane configuration on El Camino would change so that buses have a dedicated lane going up and down. Or it could be a different that includes more of like changes to the bus stops or to the bus itself to make getting on and off the bus faster and easier. So that that's how that transit, improving transit as opposed to the pedestrian experience, would be the difference in B. And then as I think maybe it was Wallace who said, C really kind of makes an attempt to combine both of those ideas. So both pedestrian improvements and transit improvements along El Camino. But Carrie's quite right. that within the universe of pedestrian improvements or even, you know, transit improvements, there are many different forms that could take. And it might in fact take different forms even in different segments of El Camino. The treatment, as George was suggesting, of El Camino as it passes through downtown might be very different from how those improvements would take shape down by the Hillsdale Caltrain station, for example.
So I want to mention that we're about 5 minutes to the end. I see a comment from Sarah Fields. I have a follow-up comment from Lisa, and then I see Wallace raising his hand. So I'm going to go in that order in order to make sure that everyone's heard. Sarah Fields' question is, with a super block concept, how is ADA compliance met in terms of access to downtown and Caltrain?
It's a good question. I'm not, you know, I know that ADA, we have federal and state regulations on that. So I know if that concept were to be implemented, you know, it would meet those requirements. Joanna, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, I know that the way they do it in Barcelona, for example, is it's not like no car can ever go on these blocks under any circumstances. They do have provisions for like service vehicles or for residents who live on those blocks, or, you know, access in certain situations. So I would imagine that they have solutions to make sure that that remains an accessible area for all users.
And the follow-up question from Lisa earlier is, as far as additional bus service, I'm wondering if you can go into how much public transit is currently utilized in San Mateo pre-pandemic. During pandemic, I witnessed empty buses going down Alameda and El Camino all the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you probably are aware that, you know, transit is not run by the city in the city of San Mateo, but and during the pandemic, it's been used much less. But we certainly, I think many of us hope that there will be a return to pre-pandemic ridership levels and even an increase above that as we start to get back to a healthier place as a society.
Yeah, and I just want to add that, you know, I know that also before the pandemic, bus service wasn't at its capacity on some routes at least. And so it's the hope that adding these kinds of improvements would help improve access to transit and then therefore increase ridership.
And we have 3 minutes remaining, and I see Wallace raising his hand.
Yes, I'd like a clarification on the green and purple dots. My assumption is that those are indicated as sort of pedestrian friendly paths. And is there any distinction between them? Is the green and the purple just where the source of where they originate? Or is one a higher priority than another?
No, that's exactly right, Wallace. It's the source. So the green dots are from the 2012, I don't want to, was it pedestrian? What's it called, Joanna, if you scroll down to the
yeah, it's, well, on the map, it's called the Pedestrian Priority Network. I think in the Pedestrian Master Plan, it's actually called the Greenway Network.
Yeah. And then the purple dots are from the Bike Master Plan.
Yeah. So this
Thank
is
you.
a whole bunch of different plans that touch on different aspects of this.
I have about 2 minutes left, and I'm wondering if there's other people who would like to speak or have any other questions. You can raise your hand, send me a chat, or if you want to unmute yourself with our remaining 2 minutes, I think that's fine as well. Quiet group. I'm surprised by this. Huh.
I think we're all still waking up, Jennifer.
It's almost 11. It's 10 minutes too. I see Wallace having another.
I think you have hands raised.
I do. I see Wallace and George, and again, we only have a minute left, so I would say you want to keep your questions short, and then we'll see how many we can get through. Let's start with Wallace.
It's a comment, and that is regard to El Camino an emphasis on transit or emphasis on walking? It seems to me as a major corridor, transit should be the winner if there's a conflict. Transit or pedestrian things should give way to transit on El Camino.
Thank you for that comment. I would say let's thank our facilitators because they will have to leave to their next meeting, and we will be getting Linda and Nick into our next session.
Bye, everyone. Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
all so
discussion
much.
today.
Give us a second. We should be seeing. I don't see Linda yet. If you want to, you can use this time and use the chat to write something about your relationship to San Mateo. Where are you from? Where do you live? Where do you work in San Mateo? We should be starting any minute, any second now. Can anyone beat Mary in how many years that they've lived in San Mateo? She's been here for 50 years. That's an incredible amount of time. It's amazing. Okay, I see Linda. We should see next.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Linda. Hi, Nick.
Sorry, we lost track of time in the previous room, but we'll go ahead and get started.
Yes.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. My name is Linda Lee. I'm an associate planner with City of San Mateo, and I'm joined with Nikki Vu. He's the note taker for today. And so again, the breakout group discussion today, we're focusing on study area 2, 6, 9, and 10. And we're looking for feedback. Do you think this is the right range of alternatives? And if not, what ideas or changes would you like to see? So starting with the first study area, this is number 2, the Bell Mateo Bowl and Molly Stone shopping area. And so the current existing general plan land use is primarily neighborhood commercial, where the red and the teal colored is. There's options for high density multifamily residential uses allowed as well by the existing general plan land use. And there's also service commercial on the west side or east side of South El Camino Real. And so the alternatives being considered for study area 2, A, B, and C would look at bringing in low-rise residential use around the Molly Stone Market and Bell Mateo Bowl area. Some neighborhood commercial would be preserved on this portion, the center of the study area, for alternative A. Alternative B would look at designating it as low-rise mixed use, and C would look at keeping the neighborhood commercial uses. Other key differences to note, A, B, and C on the east side of El Camino Real. A would look at more residential uses, low to medium, and keeping the neighborhood commercial use on this southern right parcel. B would look at changing that to mixed use. So there's an option for a mixed use village. And C would look at also mixed use, but more of a medium scale. And so again, the tables beneath, if you look at it, you can kind of get a sense of the net new homes, population, and jobs being projected. So if you have any comments, feel free to put them in the chat. Jennifer can go ahead and share it, or if you'd like to speak, we're allowing folks to raise their hands and share their comments verbally as well.
you want to raise your hand, under the participant tab, you should be able to right click and then see under one of the icons below that, the function of raising your hand. Sometimes it's under more. I had a question about that. The first question I see is from Wallace.
Go ahead, Wallace.
I'm a consolidation person, so I like C.
Great. What do you like about C?
It just seems like it's a good balance.
Hmm.
It
So
picks up some residential by replacing some of the lower density commercial that's there now, but preserves the more significant commercial along El Camino.
Mm-hmm. It's a great comment. Thank you, Wallace.
I have the next question from Sarah Fields. Can we have a local example of a mixed-use village?
Mixed-use village. So I can pull up the place
Yeah, the
text. Really
place
quick.
works. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have this document open, you can go ahead and scroll through the different place types. But let me just show you really quickly what. So was the question about low-rise mixed use?
Mixed-use village.
Mixed-use village. It's a great question. So yeah, mixed-use village, what we're looking at is a combination of, commercial, office, residential uses combined. Some, I think, the pictures you see here, like this is that Blue Bottle shopping area. I'm blanking out on the name of this particular region, but you'll see.
Bay Meadows.
Bay Meadows, thank you. So yeah, we have residential uses. We also have, there's food options, there's office. And so the concept of a village is you can stay in this area and access all the needs and services. Okay, hope that answers it. Is there any other comments, questions?
I think Park Place is probably the best example of that in San Mateo right now.
Park Place? Oh yeah, where the Whole Foods is?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And this is actually another study area. So we can, any other comments, Jennifer?
I don't see any comments.
Okay.
We have a lot of time, guys. We got 15 minutes.
Oh.
I have Mary Bates who just raised her hand.
Go
Would
ahead,
you like,
Mary.
You're muted.
Mary, muted.
And then after Mary, we can have Sarah speak. And then before I call on George again, I just want to make sure there's other participants who would like to speak. So would there, who have not spoken yet.
Yeah, and so if you're speaking, please just plan on, being brief.
Can you hear me now?
Quick.
Okay. I just wondered, like with C, it seems to me it would cause a lot more traffic. I know it's already congested at 41st and El Camino for people that live in the village and over that way. And I just wondered, is traffic included in the plan or expected traffic?
Yeah, so yeah, traffic is something, that the team will be evaluating further once we refine the preferred alternative. That's when we'll launch into technical studies. Yeah, thanks.
So I'm going to ask Sarah Fields to unmute, and then I'm going to take a comment written to me by Lisa, and then we'll go to George.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer.
Yeah, I would say, for me, his dog has a strong opinion. Really with respect to quality of life, including traffic and ease of activity, I personally feel that mixed use should really be prioritized in this plan, that particularly a model where there's ground floor retail and housing and commercial use above it is really important as we think of sort of the environmental goals of reducing greenhouse gases, of making fewer car trips, and frankly, just like the ease and quality of life issues. If you look at the Bay Meadows example that you just gave, if you look at that plaza in Bay Meadows, which has a few restaurants and shops, that's a very frequented area that's well appreciated by both residents and folks in other parts of San Mateo that then gravitate to that area. And so I think when we think about new residential, that mixed use is a very good model to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
So the comment I have from Lisa is traffic bottlenecks are quite a bit at overpass to Pacific Boulevard. Until traffic flow is worked out, I can only see alternative A as an option. I'm talking about the interchange at Lorry Meadows, 41st, and El Camino.
Thank you for that, Lisa.
And then ask George Derby to unmute.
Yes, I'm not, I don't frequent the Bel Mateo area very often, so I don't have good direct knowledge, but I'm wondering, is there really no opportunity for public or privately owned public space in this zone? Because there doesn't really seem to be much, if any.
Yeah, so there is one. It's, sorry, my mouse is fidgety. So this small P that you see, privately owned public open space. And the city does encourage, developers when they come in with, mixed use or commercial projects, that they provide community benefits, and public open space that's privately owned is one form of that.
Is it only a encouragement, or are there requirements, for tree planting, setbacks, things like that?
Yeah, we do have required, landscaping, and for the public community benefits, it could be the form of public art, and there is public open space components to it.
I have a question from Erin White. Her comment is, I'm confused. Is there only one overall plan choice between A, B, and C that encompasses all parts? Or is each area evaluated separately with the A, B, C choice?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, the exercise today is really for us to understand, does the public think this is the right range? There is no, picking between A, B, or C, Yeah, that's something that we may look at later. But currently we're looking at each individual study areas and really thinking, what makes sense for the study area? Would it be a mix of A and B? Would it be more mixed use? Would it be higher rise residential use? So that's the feedback that we're looking for today.
And Linda, just a reminder, we're halfway through and you have 3 other study sessions.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
So the next study area, this is study area 6, campus drive area. So the existing general plan land uses are executive office on the northern portion and neighborhood commercial on the south, where Laurelwood Shopping Center is. And so alternatives being considered for study area 6, A, B, and C would look at introducing, medium residential uses. And this is consistent with a recently approved planning project, Peninsula Heights. That's a 290 residential unit project. A and B would look at preserving some office uses. A obviously would be more, but low rise office, and B would concentrate it on the 2 parcels that you see that's sort of like a fuchsia color. And A and B would look at designated Laurelwood Shopping Center as low rise mixed use. And so that would allow for a mix of commercial, residential, and office. And C would look at keeping Laurelwood Shopping Center as neighborhood commercial, but changing, the existing office uses to all medium residential. And so if anyone has any comments, feel free to send them through the chat.
I've asked that. Why don't we move on to the next area?
Thank you, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
So the next study area, number 9, this is the Hillsdale Norfolk area. And just to orient everyone on this is the Kaiser Medical Office over here. There's Whole Foods. And so I know that we had discussed it in an earlier comment. So this is a good mixed use concept to think about. And so across from the Kaiser Medical Office, this is the Hillsdale Inn. There is a residential project proposed here. And we also have the Marina Plaza Shopping Center. And so currently the study area is mostly neighborhood commercial with regional community commercial uses. And so alternatives being considered for this study area, A, B, and C would look at, designating that Kaiser parcel as medium rise office. The Hillsdale Inn would be changed to low rise residential to be consistent, with the existing planning project. And the Marina Plaza Shopping Center, we have an A, regional commercial. B would look at changing it, mix of mixed use medium rise with regional commercial, and C would look at neighborhood commercial combined with regional. Jennifer, do you recommend I can just go through?
Let's go through one more and then let's save all the questions so we have plenty of time for discussion.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the last study area. This is number 10. This is the Bridgepoint Shopping Center. Currently, the land uses are executive office on the outskirts where the purple is. The pink is regional community commercial. That's where the Marriott Hotel Inn is. And on the brown, that's the regional community commercial and high density multifamily uses. So that's where the Bridgepoint Shopping Center, Home Depot, Sony office, and an existing apartment complex. And so the different alternatives being considered for this study area is really bringing in more residential uses on these outlying parcels on the north. And for A, B, and C, the main changes to highlight, A would keep Bridgepoint Shopping Center as regional commercial. B would look at bringing in low-rise mixed use, and C would look at changing that to medium-rise residential use.
One of the comments I got was that the pace of the study area is really fast, that they cannot wrap their head around it,
Okay.
let alone give feedback. So now that you've seen all of them, all of the 4 areas, let's go back to 6 for the 6 for any questions around 6 again, and it will take, because we still have about 8 minutes remaining, and then we'll take everyone through.
Yes. Yeah, I do understand. It's a lot of information, a lot of study areas. And so, yeah, we're here to provide you information today. And if you feel like you need time to process it, we do have that online survey that you can fill out at a later date until May 2nd.
And the request is for you maybe to slow down a little bit.
Okay. No worries. So we have one hand raised.
Yeah, I see 2 hands, but let's also, I have a because I've been speaking a lot, I want to make sure everyone participates. And I have a comment from Susie. The comment from Susie is that, is there plans to widen the streets, make new lanes, anything to make traffic flow around the areas you're talking about? Traffic is already way too much where we are. Where they are, are there, I guess. Where they are, yeah.
Has the circulation facilitation come through this group yet?
Yep, it has. It was the first facilitation.
Oh, is the, yeah, so those alternatives, it does look at, pedestrian, bike uses. I'm seeing a head shaking though. So I'm not sure how much in detail they were able to cover that. But, when these projects get developed on private property, we, staff does look at, that they're providing, open space component, and Public Works would look at, bike, pedestrian amenities. And so it is considered. I think at this level of the study areas, this discussion, we are not looking at that detail, but when we do get into, selecting one study area or one alternative to look at, that's when we can sort of refine that more in-depth look.
Right. I think we've looked at circulation in general, but not specifically traffic in each location. Sarah Fields has a follow-up question. With study area 6, this is not a transit-rich area. What consideration is taken here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I can, keep that question and see if, our other staff can follow up on that. But I do know that with Peninsula Heights, there was consideration about creating a bike pedestrian connection that would take Campus Drive all the way to 26 Ave. So I know that's separate from transit, but this was a circulation, component I wanted to highlight.
Why don't you move the study area to study area 9? So for them to take a look at it. I know I see 2 hands up. I will call on Wallace, just knowing that we have 3 minutes remaining, and then I'll call on George. Wallace, would you like to unmute yourself? You have to unmute yourself.
Accidentally muted again. As to the question about the range of alternatives in each study area, I think they're very, very good. I like the selection, and I tend toward C, or in the case of this one, study area 9B looks attractive to me.
What do you like about alternative B?
It just seems like it's a good middle ground, which is, I guess, what it's intended to be. And I understand that in the study of this is going to be a lot more insight and in-depth probing than we're able to do in these few minutes.
Yeah. Thank you, Wallace.
I'm going to ask on George. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Yes, I'm trying to understand the open space concept. None of these study area alternatives really indicate much open space. Is that something that's left till later with negotiations with the developers? Or is there any kind of planning that you can do in advance? I mean, the way things are going, you're going to end up with more open space in the center of downtown with a super block concept than out in the, than the adjoining regions.
Yeah, thank you, George, for that comment. So most of the study areas, the main focus of it was to look at where to concentrate growth. So that's homes, population, jobs. And, the 10 different study areas, I'll go ahead and throw up a map of the whole, that's being considered. So it's really concentrated around certain regions. Open space is considered more as a privately owned public open space component. And, there's the rest of the city, that we are not looking at, but could be potential for open space. And the general plan does include an open space conservation element. And so, it's, although we may not get into that detail, within the study areas, the general plan does consider, citywide and open space is an element that we look at further.
Maybe we need a San Mateo open space fund like the Peninsula open space fund.
I would also just mention that I think in alternatives B and C, there is an opportunity for privately sponsored open space, I think, at the shopping center.
Yeah, so
that if that were to be redeveloped, then we would have some open space there.
I know it's hard to see on the maps, but it's the green P.
Looking at the time, we have about 2 minutes remaining. I have a comment from Erin White. Her comment is that she would like to see the focus to be on the quality of life, not on the quantity of the structures. Priority to preserving nature, creating more green space, and keep views of hills and the bay. And then Lisa has a comment on study area 9. Again, traffic in this area is a nightmare. Until you can resolve infrastructure, I can only see alternative C.
Okay.
If you want to move on to look at alternative 10 again with the remaining minute we have left.
Yeah. Were there any comments for study area 10?
I read the comments that I read, and then Sarah has her hand raised. I'm going to ask her to unmute herself.
Yeah, so I think that some version of B or C is really appropriate here. If you go to Bridgepoint, and perhaps it's B, the target is very much an active point, but there's real opportunity, I think, for sort of the other half of that shopping center to be redeveloped. And I know that's a high traffic area already, but there's so many jobs and so many people that go to Foster City to work. And this is right at the edge of San Mateo and Foster City. And so I do think this is an area ripe for mixed use redevelopment and particularly more residential units.
Thank you for that comment, Sarah. We're gonna say goodbye to Linda.
Yes.
She has to move on to the next session, and we have 4 more. We're halfway through, so stay with me here.
Yes.
Julia and Wendy is going to come in with 4 more studies areas to take a look at, while Linda and Nicholas move on.
Yeah. All right, Nikki, we're going to A. Thank you, everyone, and sorry, to rush through, but I hope you learned something from study areas 2, 6, 9, and 10. Thank you.
I know if that was there, it gets, we're almost there. 4 more study areas, and then 3 on your final session. I see Julia.
Hi, am I in the right room?
You are, and I see Wendy. So you can start.
Wendy, okay. Sorry, let me go ahead and get to the presentation. And just real quickly, my name is Julia Klein, and I am with the City of San Mateo. And with me is Wendy Lau. She's also with the City of San Mateo. And I'm trying to share my screen.
You're good.
Good. Okay, perfect. So just real quickly, I will be covering 4 study areas, primarily focusing on the 4 that are in the northern part of San Mateo. And so study area 1, 4, 5, and 7. So we do have 4 areas to cover. So I'm going to try to make sure we have enough time to talk about each one. Study area 1 is the first one we'll start with. The current mix of land uses in this area is medium and high density multifamily. As well as office, and mixed in with that is a residential overlay over some of the office properties. So the 3 alternatives we're going to be looking at is alternative A, B, and C. The key differences between these 3 for the northern segment of El Camino is that in alternative A, you'll see that at El Camino and Tilton, there's this light blue color, and that's reflective of mixed use medium. And mixed use medium is really looking at buildings that are potentially 4 to 7 stories. In the alternative B, you'll note that at Poplar and El Camino, that's where that gas station is. That's designated as commercial neighborhood. And so that's, again, that's that red portion that's in the middle of the map. In alternative C, you'll note that again at the El Camino and Tilton area, there's a difference in color, and that is changed to mixed use high. And so mixed use high is really reflective of buildings that are 8 stories or taller. And then in terms of net new jobs and net new dwelling units, the table at the bottom shows the differences between the 3 alternatives. Are there any questions or comments?
I don't see anything in the chat.
Okay, why don't we give it another minute in case some people might be typing.
I would feel free to move on, and then we can always come back to
Sure, that's a
understand.
good idea. Okay, so why don't we move on to study area 4. This is the downtown area. Downtown is generally bounded by 9th Avenue along the south. El Camino is right in the middle right here. And then you've got Tilton Avenue to the north, and then Highway 101 over here. The key differences between the 3 maps is that in alternative A, you have predominantly this lighter color of blue, and that's reflective of medium mixed use. And then in alternative B, you'll see the introduction of some of this darker blue, which is mixed use high. And then in alternative C, you'll see that the mixed use high, darker blue color, there's more of those mixed into the downtown area. In addition to that, I wanted to point out that in alternative C, east of the railroad tracks, you'll note that there's both a medium color orange color as well as a lighter color orange. The lighter color orange is reflective of residential low, and that's for buildings that are potentially 1 to 3 stories in height with densities between 9 to 39 units per acre. And that orange, that darker orange color, which is reflective of residential medium, is for buildings that are 4 to 7 stories tall with densities that are between 40 units to 99 units per acre. Are there any questions about these maps, or if you would like me to zoom in on any of these maps, please let me know.
The only comment I've gotten so far is actually about the previous study area from Lisa Van. Lisa
Okay.
said study area 1 alternative C would be higher, denser than measure Y allows.
Thank you for that comment, and that some of these alternatives are reflective of a time horizon to General Plan 2040, which is Measure Y has a horizon of 2030. So we are planning for a few, 10 more years beyond Measure Y. And so some of these scenarios are reflective of planning for that additional growth, both in housing and jobs.
Thank
So
you
let's go back to study area 4.
Right. I have a hand raised from George Derby.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have a question on study area, a comment on study area 1 and also on 4. On 1, I would just say that that stretch of El Camino is rather poorly graded and a little bit difficult to drive compared to a lot of other stretches of El Camino. So I don't know if that's if that is included in the transportation plan about any enhancements to that roadway, but I think it would be worthwhile. And then on study area 4, I made a comment in a previous session about including a green space that ran through from Central Park all the way through town, over through the town square superblock concept, over to the San Mateo Creek area down by Caltrain. But another kind of big idea potentially for this area is on that east end of San Mateo. Is there the possibility of somehow encouraging a performance hall to be located there? You know,
So
theater, music, doesn't have to be very big, but you know, kind of like the old vaudeville theaters that used to pull in a neighborhood. You know, something like that. Is that something that has ever been considered, or has any developer even mentioned that in their plan, in their thinking?
So that's definitely a comment that I'm looking at Wendy, even though she may not be. So Wendy will definitely note that as a comment for the future. In terms of has any developer proposed it? I'm not aware of any developer proposing that idea or any neighborhood group proposing that idea. It's an interesting concept, and I think we'll just make sure that Wendy is noting that down for the future.
Yes, I
Okay.
have it noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also just if no one's kind of willing to give up space to do that, if the Caltrain tracks are buried at some point, the space above it could be a location for, you know, both a city hall and a performance hall together, which would probably be great for you guys to just walk out and go right into whatever concert you want to see.
We're definitely noting down that comment and those ideas. So thank you.
So Julia, we have about 10 minutes remaining. You have 2 other study sessions. I have one question about area 1, but since it's very specific, I'm going to gather that to wait till you finish the next 2 sessions and then bring that question back to you at the end.
Okay, sounds good. So let's go ahead and go to the study area 5. This is again back to North San Mateo Drive and then Peninsula Avenue area. Mix of uses currently designated as residential medium and high, and then also commercial and office. Among the 3 alternatives, you'll note that the key difference is that in the Wood Lake Shopping Center, which is where Safeway is, in alternative A, it is neighborhood commercial, that's the red color. Alternative B, that's changing to mixed use medium. And then in alternative C, it's changing to mixed use low. Mixed use low is that light blue color, and it's also stretching along some of the other properties along Peninsula Avenue. In the middle, you'll see that there's along North San Mateo Drive and Poplar, you'll see a mix of red and purple properties. The purple is for office low, and then the red is again commercial neighborhood. In the middle, in the map, the alternative B map, that same area is mixed use medium. And then in alternative C, you'll see that same area is back to purple and red, but you also see the introduction of this brown color, which is residential high, and then mixed use high, which is that darker blue color. Are there any questions or comments about this?
The only thing I would say, just let's, even though I'm watching our time, I just want to make sure we speak a little slower too, because we've gotten that comment before from from an earlier session.
Okay. I can definitely zoom in if that helps, you know, to look at some of these areas.
I don't see anything yet. Well, let's finish. Maybe we'll finish the next one, and then we'll bring all the questions as a group.
Okay, so let's go ahead and go to a high-level overview of study area 7. So this is Highway 101 on both sides of Highway 101, as well as the Shoreview Shopping Center area. So the current mix of land use is medium and high density residential, as well as some service commercial, which is that pink color, and then neighborhood commercial, which is red. So the key differences among the 3 alternatives is that in alternative A, you'll see that pink land use designation for service commercial staying. And then in alternative B, some of the pink area is changing to orange and this darker brown. And so the orange is for residential medium, the darker brown is residential high. And what that means in terms of residential medium is 47-story buildings with densities between 40 to 99 units per acre. And then residential high is 8-story buildings with residential densities between 100 to 200 units per acre. And then what you'll note is that in the Shoreview Shopping Center area in alternative B, that's changing to mixed use medium. And then in alternative C, that same area, part of it is changing to mixed use high. And what mixed use medium means is that in the place types menu, it shows 4 to 7-story buildings. And for mixed use high, that's looking at 8+ story buildings. So are there any questions about this, any of these alternatives? Should I zoom in on any of these maps?
I have a question from Sarah Fields for specifically for study area 7. What considerations are being made to mitigate flooding? It is my understanding that this area is in a flood zone.
That is correct. A good portion of this area is in the flood zone, and that is one of the evaluations that Joanna had mentioned that we do need to study in the next phase. So thank you for that comment.
Okay, I see I see Wallace's hand up. I'm going to ask him to unmute.
Yes, I just concerned about the preserving enough commercial service in the city. I don't know that this is necessarily the place to do it, but North Amplet and Claremont Boulevard are key areas for auto repair and all kinds of services of that type. We don't want to run short of that.
Okay, so thank you for that comment. So Wendy, that's a general comment.
I have a follow-up question from Sarah. Also for study area 7, are there considerations for connectivity from east side of 101 to downtown?
That's a good comment for us to note down for connectivity and circulation. So thank you.
I received a comment from George Derby. George said he agrees with Wallace on service availability. Let me go back to the question about study area 1. You may want to pull up the study area 1.
Yes.
The question is, in area for Mary Bates, in area 1, does A eliminate the gas station? And then she also said there is a performing center on Delaware. I'm not sure if that's related to the same study area on the second comment.
So with the exercise that we're doing now, and when the city changes the land use designation, it does not force that property owner to close shop. So the gas station in alternative A, that property is shown in this lighter sort of orange color, and it's residential low. That does not mean that the property owner who's operating the gas station, it does not force the business owner to close shop. But at some point, if that business owner would like to do something different with their property, there's a different opportunity.
I received a comment from Lisa. Lisa said that I too agree with retaining service availability in area 7.
Thank you for that comment.
I see George Derby's raised his hand. What I like about this session so far, we have about 7 minutes remaining. I can definitely call in George Derby, but anyone else who would like to talk about any of the 4 study sessions, I feel confident we have enough time to kind of go through with them. So George, if you'd like to unmute yourself, you may speak.
Yes, I don't know if this falls under your jurisdiction, but at the Caltrain station, when they started putting in the electrical overhead lines, they took down the palm trees that were there, I imagine for that purpose. And it looks a little barren there now. I was wondering if they just maybe put in, there are different kind of palm trees that grow lower. I forget, what are those islands off the coast of Spain? Those type of palm trees. But I don't know if that's under the city's jurisdiction, or is this belongs to Caltrain? And by the way, if all that belongs to Caltrain, you might want to start negotiating with them about the space above their tracks for the future.
Thank you for the comment, duly noted. Not quite within the realm of what we're talking about, but thank you. We'll pass those comments along to our public works staff who's working with Caltrain.
Okay, but is that space under city jurisdiction, or is that really all Caltrain?
I don't know the details for that, I'm sorry.
So I would like to offer people we've covered a lot in these 4 areas. I know we've been, and we have the luxury of having a little bit of time. So if people would like to unmute themselves and share, especially those who have not spoken already or commented in chat, this is a great opportunity too. And then we have one more studies area to study after this group, and then we'll be done. Carolyn, are you trying to speak? The next group that's coming in will be studying another part of Lisa asking a question, what study area remains? There will be 3 more that will start after the last and final group will study the study areas 1, 3, and 8. And that will start in about 5 minutes from now. So for these 4 sessions, the current study area of 1, 4, 5, and 7, where we have Julia and Wendy with us. If you want to go back to ask her on any of the questions you've seen, provide any comments. Since we have the luxury of some time, I'd love to provide that opportunity of letting you to unmute yourself and talk.
I also want to add I don't have any comments for study area 5, the Peninsula Avenue area. So if I miss anything, please let me know.
I have a comment from Aaron White in Northview Area 7. There's currently no city bus or school bus that goes to San Mateo High School and surrounding area. Can this comment please be sent to the appropriate department?
We can note that down. Yes.
Can you pull up study area 5 again for people to see?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Carolyn was trying to speak. Okay.
So sometimes after the workshop, if you happen to go by any of these areas in the city and an idea pops up in your head, as something that you think we should study, a certain type of use that might make sense in this area that you would like us to consider and study, please go ahead and send an email to generalplan@cityofsanmateo.org. Your comments are welcome, even after this workshop. And so definitely keep this in mind for these 10 study areas as you're going on and about in the community.
I have a comment from George saying that the SamTrans 292 goes past San Mateo High School, and Sarah Field has to leave early, but thanks us for hosting this today.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for the comments.
Let's see, I have a comment from Lisa. In introducing the study areas, can you first review existing, then review the alternatives? You've done that a couple of times. It's very helpful understanding the impacts.
Okay, so I think each group is doing that. The only one that I didn't do was for downtown, and primarily because alternative A was already very similar to the land uses that are currently in downtown.
When we have, just being a timekeeper person that I am, we have about 3 minutes, and after that, then Julia and Wendy will need to leave us to go to their next breakout room.
With the 3 minutes, perhaps Wendy can share the comments that we have received.
Sure. And just to let you know, I didn't necessarily capture all the questions because I think most of them were captured in the chat that Jennifer has.
And we also have we also have a recording.
Yes, okay. So I will share my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Yes, okay. So for study area 1, which is the North El Camino Real area, I had a comment from Lisa that alternative C might be higher than what measure Y would allow. And the response was that some of these alternatives are reflective of the time horizon up to the year 2040. We are planning for 10 more years beyond measure Y. And there was a question about, does alternative A eliminate the gas station? And there's more to that answer. And then for study area 4 downtown, there was a question about study area 1, that stretch of El Camino Real is poorly graded and difficult to drive. Is that included in the transportation plan? And study area 4, the town square superblock concept, and on the east end of San Mateo, is there a possibility of encouraging a performance hall to be located there, which city staff noted and will pass on to developers possibly. I didn't receive any comments for study area 5, which is the Peninsula Avenue area. For study area 7, one question was, what measures are being made to mitigate flooding? This is in the flood zone. And the answer is that it is in the flood zone. And that is one of the evaluations we will study in the next phase. And there was a question, are there considerations for connectivity between 101 and I think across the area? There was a question, or there was a comment about agreeing with retaining services in area 7. And there was a comment that there are no buses that go to San Mateo High School and the surrounding area. And can this comment be sent to the appropriate department? And there were some general comments. One was about concern about preserving enough commercial services in the city, especially area 7. And North Amplet and Claremont Boulevard are key areas for auto repair. So we don't want to run short of those services in those areas. And many people agreed with that comment. There was also a comment that at the Caltrain station, they took down the palm trees and it looks empty now. So is it possible to plant such as shorter palm trees that in that area? And we will pass that comment to Public Works, who works with Caltrain. And
So
yeah,
I'm going to, unfortunately, we'll have all of this on our brochures, but you guys have to move on to your next room.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having us. Bye, everybody.
thank you.
Hi.
Sorry, we're trying to keep all of this on time to make sure you guys get out of this as close to noon as possible, and let you go on with your day. And I see Sandy and I see Brian, and they will be presenting study areas 1, 3, and 8 to us.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, there he is.
Sorry.
Wasn't sure if you made it through the time warp or not.
Barely. All right, let me pull my screen up here. Okay, can everybody see my presentation? All right, get a thumbs up from Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer. So the study areas that I am assigned are portions of study area 1 in the middle of San Mateo and the southern portion here. And study area 1 runs along El Camino Real. We have study area 3, which is this big chunk in the middle, which is our largest study area in this process. It includes all of El Camino between those two portions of study area 1, so roughly 92 down to the southern end of Hillsdale Mall, and also Bay Meadows and the areas around the Hillsdale Caltrain station and the Hayward Park station. And then study area 8, which is at the interchange of 101 and 92 over here on the east side. So I'm going to jump into study area 8 first because it's brought about a lot of comments so far. And I know 3 is going to have quite a few comments. But if anybody has particular study areas they want to make sure we cover, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll make sure there's enough time to do that. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at study area 8, the 101-92 interchange area. So this area will include the passages, the Crossroads project here, the office space. It includes the Marriott here just north along 101, and also this office complex that's just north of that along 101 as well. It includes Parkside Plaza here, which is this sort of mint green color, the fish market and the area surrounding it, and then this office and complex parcel here to the south of 92. And so I will show you what all 3 of these now look like. Oh. So across the 3 alternatives, there are a few differences that I'm going to point out. So at the northern end, we have a residential low designation in that office park, in A and C, and then a medium residential medium designation, an alternative B. The Marriott and the Crossroads developments stay the same across all 3 alternatives. And then these two parcels to the west of the Crossroads project change slightly. So in A, they are mixed use low, and then mixed use medium in B and C. And then down here, this office complex stays an office complex in alternative A. It's an office medium, so 4 to 7 stories, a residential low in alternative B, and then a residential medium in alternative C. And then the other major change would be this Parkside Plaza parcel, which is a mixed use low designation in alternative A, a residential medium designation in alternative B, and then a mixed use medium in alternative C. So those are the primary changes from A through C. And then I also want to point out the box at the bottom indicates that alternative B and C have roughly the same net new homes and net new population. It's a matter of where within the study area those are located. So you'll see, like I mentioned, residential medium up here in this office park in alternative B, and then there's a residential medium down here in alternative C. So it's sort of shifting where the densities are located within the study area, and that's in aggregate though leading to a similar number of new units and new residents here in this study area. So I will pause and see if we have any comments or questions and make sure that we are capturing the right range of possible uses in one of these alternatives, at least one of the alternatives.
I don't see any comments or hand raises.
Okay.
Maybe what we've been doing sometimes is moving on to the next one and then coming back for conversation.
Sure, that's fine. I know this has come up in a couple of other breakout groups. This green P up here, there were comments about open space in this particular study area. I do want to point out that in all 3 alternatives, there is this sort of privately owned public open space designation here that could include a plaza or some sort of public area that would be included as part of this development on this parcel.
Brian, your camera went off. I'm not sure if that was intended or not.
Oh, it was not. I'm back. Sorry.
That's okay.
So I can go on to 3. I know 3 is going to generate some comments. It's the largest one. So let's do that. And people can continue to add their comments on study area 8 in the chat in the meantime. So study area 3 is our largest one, as I said. You're going to notice that most of the change across the alternatives is going to be concentrated west of the Caltrain line here. And that's largely because this area east is either governed by a specific plan, like in Bay Meadows. So this is the same across all 3. The event center here is this large parcel. And then you have either projects that are currently under construction or recently completed or recently approved that are incorporated in all 3. So like Station Park Green up here and the Concar project are the same across all 3 of the alternatives. So if you want to focus your attention basically west of this rail line, you'll see most of the changes across the 3. So just to highlight an alternative A, Burrell Square Shopping Center, which is up here, is a mixed use medium here with again, one of these green Ps that would designate a privately owned public open space. This 25th Avenue area to the west of El Camino is a mixed use low here in alternative A. And then Hillsdale Mall is a combination of commercial, regional, and mixed use medium. In alternative B, Burrell Square Shopping Center is a residential medium. So again, that's a 4 to 7 story residential project. 25th Avenue is mixed use medium, so slightly more dense than an alternative A. It's again 4 to 7 story. And then Hillsdale Mall is still a combination of regional commercial and also mixed use medium. I also want to point out this is different in this particular study or alternative. These 2 brown parcels just north of Hillsdale, this indicates residential high along this area. And then lastly, with alternative C, you have Burrell Square being a mixed use high designation here, continuing to have that privately owned public open space. You have 25th Avenue continuing to be a mixed use medium designation. And then Hillsdale Shopping Center is a combination of high density mixed use and a medium density mixed use. So no, that's a lot to look at and digest. So I'm going to put all three of them up on the screen at the same time so you can sort of get a sense of how the land uses change from A through C. And again, we're asking, are we capturing the right range of alternatives? We want to make sure that we're not missing anything and that at least one of the alternatives is capturing your feedback or what you would like to see in that particular area, at least see the city study.
And while we leave this on for a minute or two, I'm going to go back because we did get questions about the previous study area.
Okay.
But it took a couple of minutes for them to kind of type it up. So I want them to type up questions for this current area, and I'll read to you the questions in the meantime that you guys can comment. I have Lisa commenting that study area 8, alternative C makes the most sense because traffic on car area is crazy. Nancy wrote that, what was the change to the fish market area in alternative 8? I'm sorry, in the study area 8. Aaron White asked the question of, can the fish market area be public green space use?
Okay, so are there more, Jennifer?
I have one more. I
Okay.
think this is on the same area. I live on the Norfolk Street across the street from the new development going up for the last year. I truly cannot see how our roads are going to support these new homes, let alone the new developments across the way at the fish market. Before Corona, it took me a full hour to get from Trader Joe's to my house. I don't see how that will be better with more homes, businesses, paths, etc. Truly, all the development around me makes me want to leave my hometown, which is sad / terrible, as I am not the only person from here leaving because of all the development.
Okay, we will certainly thank you all for those comments. We will certainly capture. It sounds like there are definite concerns about circulation within study area 8. And I think there was a question as well about the fish market change.
That's right.
So the areas here in A and C that you see as neighborhood commercial, that's the area where the fish market is currently located. So those are the two, those are A and C here. B is a mixed use medium designation. So that would be the change that's noted here in the alternative B, I think was the question.
Again, let me say, the question was, what was the change to the fish market area?
Mm-hmm. That would be the change. And
then the second question is, can the fish market area be public green space use?
Okay, we can incorporate that comment as well.
Okay, I don't see anything else, and I haven't gotten any comments yet about study area 3.
Okay, I'll put that back up real quick. But we can also move on.
Time check, you're about halfway through.
Okay.
Can I just add the fish market? Obviously, we took down your comments. There is a proposal for a residential, low density residential at the fish market going through planning right now. So it is possible that could happen before these maps are finalized.
Thanks, Sandy. All right, maybe we'll do the same thing. We'll let folks type up their study area 3 comments as I go on to study area 1 and talk through those. So let's first talk about the northern part here that's in central San Mateo of study area 1. This is runs along El Camino from roughly Central Park down to about 16th Avenue. So right now it's a mixture of uses, commercial, some mixed use, and office space. And here are the 3 proposed alternatives. So you'll see a lot of mixed use across all 3 of these maps, particularly in this northern portion, north of about 12th, between 12th and 9th. So in alternative A, it's mostly low density mixed use. In alternative B, it's a combination of medium density and high density mixed use. And then in alternative C, it's mostly medium density mixed use here, with all 3 of them have this one residential parcel. It's either low or medium in B and C. And then the main differences between the 3 happen below 12th Avenue, so between 12th and 16th. Here you have a mixed use medium designation in alternative A, including some high density office. You have mostly residential high here, which is the brown color between 12th and 16th in alternative B. And then also this parcel down here is a mixed use high instead of the office high. And then in alternative C, again, it's mostly mixed use medium with some office and residential medium mixed in. So those are the main differences across these three alternatives.
While they're evaluating that, I will provide you the comments that have been made in the chat to me. Mary Beats asked the question, is parking ever a consideration in making the plan?
Yes, I mean, it's certainly going to be part of the evaluation of the impacts of these alternatives, and that will come as part of the next stage of this process.
And Mary Hobbs made a comment that I do not see traffic dealt with any of the sections.
I'm wondering if that was specific to study area 3 or just all the study areas in general, whether there's no consideration of traffic.
I think so. I believe it's a second, but Nancy, if you want to either unmute yourself to make that comment or write more in the chat, we might need a clarification.
So I do want to say we do have a separate circulation element that is going to look at traffic across the city, but it will be part of what we're looking at in each of these study areas as well. So for example, Bay Meadows is included as part of study area 3, even though it's largely sort of planned out because of circulation concerns. So we want to make sure that we're studying circulation in those parts of the city and traffic as we move forward in this update.
They have the circulation as the first
Okay.
breakout group.
I've lost track of how many groups we've done at this point.
It's your last one. Everyone can go home after this, or go on with their day, I should say. I have a comment from Lisa. Lisa said, I feel the same as the person who said she feels like leaving San Mateo. I live right behind Hillsdale Mall, also frequent 25th Avenue. One of the principles of San Mateo general plan is to respect the character of our neighborhoods. Alternative C, even B, totally violates in my opinion. You're going to put small businesses out of operation. Traffic and parking will be impossible. I'm not sure
that comment.
Which was that study area 3?
I'm guessing it's 3, but
because they're talking about
we'll certainly take additional clarifying comments if the commenter wants to add anything. I do have one more small portion of study area 1 we can go to while we're waiting for additional comments. Okay. So this is an area that's south of study area 3, also along El Camino Real. So right now it's a mixture of neighborhood commercial and regional and community commercial designation. So across the 3 study areas, we'll start at the northern end. So this is where that FedEx is now. This block would mostly be mixed use low in both alternatives A and B with a residential medium here to the west. It's a neighborhood commercial in alternative C. And then here in alternative A, running along 37th to the south, and then El Camino Real to the west is all commercial neighborhood. So again, these are like small neighborhood shops, places where people in the immediate vicinity might walk to get their basic needs. In alternative B, it's a residential low, so 1 to 3 story residential, and then a mixed use low along El Camino here. And then in study area C, it's mostly mixed use low, with the exception of this, where the auto zone is now, and the parcel to the north would be a neighborhood commercial. And then in both B and C, to the east of El Camino, is a neighborhood commercial designation here in this thin parcel. And then it's a service commercial in alternative A, which would include something like auto repair or self-storage or those types of businesses.
Lisa clarified her previous comment, which is that she said, yes, I think study area 3, whatever involves Hillsdale Mall related to the, that's about the 25th Avenue and respecting the character of the general plan. Aaron White has a comment. Like the previous comment, I am very concerned at how crowded San Mateo has become. I am also considering leaving as well. When doing city planning, at what point do you recognize that San Mateo has reached maximum capacity and switching it, fixing infrastructure areas that are aging. Fixing infrastructure areas that are aging.
So infrastructure is certainly going to be part of that circulation element and something that we're going to study closely as we move forward with whatever alternative is ultimately chosen.
We have 5 minutes remaining, and since we've gone through all the study areas, if you would like to just unmute themselves to chat, this is perfectly fine.
And I'm happy to go back to show any additional maps, or if there are things that people have additional questions about in any of the study areas, I'm happy to move back into the presentation to put those on the screen as well.
I don't see any comments yet. Well, Brian did such a great job back there, not making any comments. I have a comment from Lisa. This is a general comment about the meeting today. First, let me say thank you and that you are doing a great job. However, the pace has been way too fast as there are way too many study areas to cover. Not enough time to review and evaluate. I recommend that you have further study sessions.
Thank you for that comment. I know it is a lot of information to cover, particularly when you have maybe 3 maps on the screen and you have dozens of parcels in different colors. So I certainly appreciate that. I do want to encourage you to use the online survey tool too. So it has all of the information that we presented today, but you can take it at your own pace. It's asking you the same questions. You can look at the current land use versus the proposed land uses and really take your time to look at how it's changing, and all of that feedback is going to be incorporated in the same way and through the same sort of stream as the feedback we've gotten through these live sessions as well.
I have a comment from George that's not pertaining to this segment we're on. It's from a previous one with Julia. He says in study area 4, if the superblock / town square concept is implemented all the way out to El Camino, or even if it isn't, might want to consider an overpass / underpass or other safer / easier way for pedestrians to cross from the west side to downtown.
Okay. We will capture that even though it's not part of our study area.
That's okay.
I have another one from George Derby that says, also one last plug for meandering green / open space from Central Park to the San Mateo Creek neighborhood by the Caltrain station with a stream walk along the way would be spectacular. Lisa Van Voort said, yes, way too much to cover. I will do online survey. While I appreciate the effort here, I admit to be very frustrated.
Okay, certainly understand that, and thank you for sharing that feedback.
We have about 2 minutes remaining. Again, we really appreciate the time you spent with us today. If you'd like to unmute to have conversations about everything you've seen, your frustrations with this process, we'd much rather do this in person as well, by the way.
That is definitely true.
With big maps that you can see. I have Carolyn Banda raising her hand. Carolyn, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, can we get a link to all these presentation materials? The study areas plus the existing maps, the way maps of existing
so
land use?
All of these materials are going to be available online afterwards, but they're also currently available on the strivesanmateo.org website. So you can go there and see all of these maps. You can also take the survey directly on there. Once you get to the homepage, it'll have take the online survey as the landing page. So if you click through that, you'll be able to see each of the study areas in greater detail. But we will make sure to capture or to post these presentations plus all the relevant materials from today's workshop.
I have a couple of questions coming in now. I have Aaron White. How does the city determine what population it can support?
So I think it's through a combination of things. I mean, in part, as I think Joanna mentioned, we have housing obligations we have to meet from the state. So we know sort of how much we have to zone for in terms of new housing to meet population growth. But all of this is sort of an iterative process where we look at what is possible for different parts of the city. And then we study what the effects of those types of development are going to be on the city as a whole. So it's really sort of it's a process that we continue to evaluate as we go, and also respond to sort of the state mandated housing allocation that we need to plan for as well.
I have another question from Nancy Hobbs. How can we make intelligent decisions without addressing traffic flow and parking?
Thank you for that comment. And again, as either the circulation element or part of our next step in this process, we will really be diving into those impacts of these different types of development, particularly on circulation, traffic flow, those types of things.
Erin White has another follow-up question. Is there a maximum capacity? I think she means about population.
I don't know that we haven't determined a maximum capacity for San Mateo. I mean, in part, it depends on what we can zone for. And also we, as a reminder, aren't building a lot of these things. We can zone for them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that someone's going to come along and build, for example, a high density project in a particular area. So I don't know that we have a cap in terms of what we think the maximum capacity of the population for San Mateo is, but we are sort of evaluating all of the impacts of these additional units and additional land use types as we go throughout this update process.
I have a comment from Jennifer Ranke. I'm not sure. Her comment is nice. Thanks, guys. Nice job. I have a comment from Lisa. Her comment is, I actually like the virtual aspect of this meeting because it makes it more accessible to all and it's less intimidating. I'm going to read this as fast as possible to speak out. However, it was too much information at once and not enough time, and it made it impossible to make an informed opinion. What would have been easier is to break the study sessions down to a subset during each online meeting. This is too important for the city of San Mateo to breeze through like you did. I have a comment from Nancy Hobbs saying that I would like a list of new housing added to San Mateo in 2019 and 2020. And it says that, and we also have a message saying that all breakout rooms will close in 30 seconds and we'll be returning back to the main room automatically. So let's just thank Brian and Sandy for this, and and thank you for your participation for today.
Yeah, thank you everyone for your comments, and thank you, Jennifer, for handling the chat so well and managing throughout all the different breakouts. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.